Would you like to see my book haul? Hi, I'm Colleen Delaney. If you're new here, I talk about books and writing. In the description, I always put links to my newsletter and some of the books I have coming out. I will say that if you are a reader, I've got some exciting stuff coming out in newsletters over the next couple months if you want to join. I don't usually talk like this if it's your first time here. I have a cold, and also I've talked about this before on my channel. I get like September insomnia, and I don't really know what causes it. I think it has to do with like a seasonal shift. But so I haven't really slept the last 2 nights either. And you're probably like, why are you filming today? And I am, because I have to. It's been too many days of my voice sounding weird, and I didn't help it because I already have had this cold and all my kids had it before me, and it was kind of lingering. And then today's Monday. On Friday, my daughters all performed at like our local high school's halftime show. And so I was like screaming, cheering for them, as one does. And then the next day, one of my daughters had a soccer game, and she played like her best soccer game ever. So I was also screaming, cheering for her at the soccer game. So I'm like, I need to stop screaming, cheering. But I am going to my son's cross country meet tonight. So that's, there's going to be more screaming, cheering. But you're not here to listen to me talk about why my voice is messed up. You're here to see my book haul. So in September, I buy a lot of books every year. I buy a lot of books in May for my birthday. And then this is probably always the month in which I buy the second most books of the year. A few weeks ago, I needed to pick me up. And so I went to Barnes & Noble, like on a Saturday, and just bought myself a couple books. Even though I have a kind of out of control TBR right now, I sort of just wanted to go buy some books. And so I went to Barnes & Noble and I got a few things, which I'll show you in a minute. And then this past weekend was my town's giant used book sale it's like a library fundraiser, and we have it every year, and it's fantastic. And so I went to that a few days ago and bought myself a bunch of books, and then I also bought my kids some books too, which I'm going to show you because I think you're all going to enjoy those too. But let's start with Barnes & Noble. And I bought these knowing that I might not read them right away. I think that 2 of these are going to be October reads, and one of them I might wait till November. And the one I might wait till November is I finally bought Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I actually got this from the library a few months ago, maybe like a year ago. And but it was like when it was brand new and it was a hot new release, and I didn't start it right away when I got it, and then I had like had it out for 3 weeks, and I was like, I just have to return it. So I got myself the paperback, figuring I won't have to return it, so now I can just read it when I feel like it. And I do think, I just realized this is like a Barnes & Noble exclusive edition. It's a very cute cover. I do think this will be like a November read for me, just when I've been like, I do look ahead at my TBRs to see what I think I'm going to read every month, and I do think this is one that I'm going to read in November. The sequel just came out. I know this is like Cottage Corey, and it's like a woman who is a professor in fairies, and it's like a rivals to lovers type story. And so I think it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Tell me if this book has spring vibes in the comments, because that cover is very springy, which is fine if it does. I just would like to know, so I don't pick it up in November thinking it's going to have like autumn or winter vibes, and then it has spring vibes. Barnes & Noble had a table of witchy books, and I had read a lot of them, but I grabbed 2 that I hadn't read. And the first is The Bone Witch by Rin, how do I say that last name? Chupeco, I think. And when I told one of my friends I read this, she's like, I loved that book or series, because I think it's a series. And I just liked the cover, and I think I read the first page. I didn't even really read the back, and thought, I think I would like that book. And it has some very, very good maps. And now I'm going to look at those more carefully. Yeah, those are fantasy maps. I saw that for a second and thought, oh, is that like a fantasy version of Ireland? But I don't think it is. The coastlines don't look correct. And that doesn't look like any island collection that I know of. And I love a good map. So I'm going to put this on my October TBR, because I am playing around with the idea of doing an only fantasy and thriller October. It's for like Halloween vibes. And so this one's going to go on the October list. And then the other witch book I got is Night of the Witch by Sarah Rosh and Beth Rivas. And I just have to tell you a funny story. This was sitting on my bedside table, and my husband, like, I don't know why, he was like teasing me, which is his love language. And he was like, what are you reading? Night of Doc the Witch. And I was like, Night of Doc the Witch? What are you talking about? And then I was like, those are crescent moons and a full moon. That's like a pagan witchy symbol. And then I told him, because my husband and I have been together for a really long time. When I was in college, I was really into The Mists of Avalon. And there was a miniseries that came out right around then. And the priestesses in that, this is like such a tangent, have this, the crescent moons with the moon, like the goddess symbol tattooed like right here. So you know that they're a priestess. And I did play with the idea of getting that tattoo on my shoulder for a while in college. I did not, and I'm glad I didn't. And so I said to him, I'm like, that's the thing I wanted to get tattooed on my shoulder. He was like, it looks like Doc. I'm like, okay, thanks. This I actually did start. I think I read the first chapter. Yeah, just like the first 12 pages a few nights ago when I forgot my book downstairs. And so I read the first chapter. It's a dark beginning, but I think I'm going to like it. I'm going to be really honest. This was like a huge selling point. The edges are so cool. But I think I'll like it. This is going to be on my October TBR. I mean, unless I finish everything on my September TBR, which is nearly impossible, and decide I want to pick it up. Or I just feel like picking it up. A little spoiler, I haven't been very good at sticking to my September rules I laid down for myself. And then lastly, I got myself a cookbook, and I've used it a couple times already, Plant You by Carly Bodrug. I follow her on Instagram. And I am trying to not be vegan because I can't give up honey, but to be like 95% vegan. And I've been doing it for about 2 weeks now. And it's going okay. I used to work at a yoga studio, so I used to be vegan every once in a while. And I'm doing it for health reasons now because I don't have great genetics when it comes to that kind of stuff. And so I am attempting to, I don't really like calling it plant-based. I know they say if you're not doing it for ethical reasons that you should call it plant-based, not vegan. I still eat stuff that's like store-bought, that's just like accidentally vegan. Like, you know, you do the whole thing where you buy like, I can't remember the brand, but one of the cake mix brands are accidentally vegan. So I buy that cake mix and then you just put a pumpkin in it instead of eggs and oil and all that stuff. And you have a vegan cake. So I don't really consider myself like plant-based because I'm not sitting around eating nothing but veggies and fruit and beans and nuts. So I don't know what to call it, but this has been helpful. I made the mashed potatoes in here, which were good. And I made this like corn salad. I'm gonna see if I can find a picture of the corn salad because that was pretty good. This one was very good. I liked that a lot. And I think that's all I've made so far. I'm trying to remember. I've bookmarked a ton of recipes to try, which I will continue trying. I'm trying to do a new recipe from this book every week and then see I really want to make these. I think my kids will like them, these breakfast cookies. Because in particularly one of my kids has a really, really hard time eating her breakfast in the morning. Our bus comes very early and she's little. So I thought if I maybe made there's like zucchini breakfast cookies or pumpkin, she might like those. So let's move on to what I got at the book sale. I went in and I don't know if you've been following me for a long time. Last year I bought like 30 books at this book sale. And it was too many because there's still quite a few I got at this book sale last year that I haven't read yet. And some I am considering just selling to half-price books because I don't think I'm gonna read them. So I tried to have a little bit more of a discerning eye this year and not just buy everything that looked good. I ended up putting 2 books back. I was so proud of myself. Just because I don't want my TBR to be overwhelming. It is overwhelming. I have an unbelievable amount of unread books. So I went in with a few more rules than normal this year. I had a few authors that I was like, I want to buy stuff by these authors. And they had 3 of them. There was a couple that they didn't have any books by those authors, and that's fine. But I didn't let myself get a lot of other books of just like, oh, that looks good. Oh, I heard that was good. Maybe I'll grab that. Because, I can get those books from the library. I have an unbelievable amount of unread books. So the first, I said to myself, I want to get some Ellen Hildebrands. And I wanted to get Winter Stroll, which is the only book in the Winter Quartet I don't have, and it's the one I'm supposed to read this year, and they didn't have it, which is fine. I'll just probably buy it used off like eBay or Amazon or something, or I'll just like see if Half Price Books has it. But they had 3 books, and the best thing they had is they had 28 Summers, which is what my book club decided to read next month. So I was really happy about that because I don't like reading on my Kindle very much. I always get carpal tunnel when I do. So I try not to read too many books on my Kindle. So I was like, oh, good. A $4 hardcover, I'll get this one. One of the people in the group picked this book, and it's like there's a movie that's like this, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's about two people who have like an affair that goes on for 28 years, but it's only for a weekend. So it's every Labor Day they meet, no matter if they're married, if they're with anybody else, they meet on Nantucket for Labor Day, and you kind of check in with them once a year for the weekend. And I think it'll be enjoyable. We'll see if I like it. I just started watching The Perfect Couple on Netflix yesterday, and I was enjoying it. Next, I got The Identicals, which is about a pair of identical twins who have had like a big falling out and then start speaking again. And it'll be interesting for me to read this because I have twins. And so I always kind of feel, I don't know. I'm always curious to see how people write twins. That's like probably the best way to say it. I don't think Ellen Hildebrand has twins, and I don't think she is a twin. My twins are not identical, and I do think being identical is a very different experience. My nephews are identical. I have twin nephews, and I have twin nieces, and I have twins. So there's a lot of twins in my family. But I do think being an identical twin is a different experience than being a fraternal twin. But I'll read this at some point. Now that Ellen Hildebrand's not going to have like a new book coming out every summer, I really like to read an Ellen Hildebrand in June. So I might save that one for June. And then lastly, I got Summer of '69 just because I've heard this is one of her best books. And honestly, I bought every Ellen Hildebrand that was out at the time that I didn't own, which was these three. There were a couple copies of Hotel Nantucket and 5-Star Weekend. But I might read this when I just need a summer pick-me-up, or I might wait and not read this even next summer, but the summer after, just so I always have an Ellen Hildebrand. But yeah, so I got 3 Ellen Hildebrands, not bad. Next, I always look for Alice Hoffman, and they had a lot of Alice Hoffmans that I had already read, which isn't odd. I've read a lot of Alice Hoffmans. So I only ended up getting one because they had a couple of her World War II ones, and I'm just like not a World War II person. But this one, Faithful, I had been thinking about buying for a long time. Like I remember on my birthday, I almost bought this. And it was only $3. And so I was like, okay, I'll get this one. You know, it's one of those. It starts, Shelby Richmond is an ordinary girl until one night an extraordinary tragedy changes her fate. Her best friend's future is destroyed in an accident while Shelby walks away without a scratch, although she's plagued by heartbreak and guilt. Then the first anonymous postcard arrives, Say Something. With support from her dedicated mother, Shelby moves to New York City, where the people she meets, flawed, scarred, loving, mysterious, help her learn to forgive herself. As more postcards arrive, Do Something, Love Something, the world opens to Shelby. Guided by her best friend, a sassy single mother of 3, her good-hearted boyfriend who she wishes could be the one, and the dark angel who's been following her since that fateful night, Shelby realizes that saving others can help save herself. In the end, Shelby can ultimately bravely face the future. I'm sure this will make me cry, but I hope I love it. I also still haven't read yet. So last year I got 3 Alice Hoffmans at the book sale. I got Skylight Confessions, The Red Garden, and Here on Earth. And I still haven't read Here on Earth. So I am going to read that one first. I'm thinking I'll read that one in the fall at some point, and then I'll read Faithful in the winter probably. Next, I told myself I wanted to buy a book by Bernard Cornwell. He wrote the book series that The Last Kingdom is based on, which I love that show. And I'm currently... You're going to get a video. I'm not sure when. I already filmed this video, but I don't know if I'm going to put it out in October or I might wait and save it for November because it's always hard to film in November because I like to write a lot in November. But I'm doing a little bit of like research into a possible series I might work on. So they had The Death of Kings, which I believe is the first book in the series that became The Last Kingdom. I don't even know what this series is called. Because I read the first page and Uhtred sounds like a little baby in it, the way he's talking. I'm going to give it a try. I really like that show a lot. Like, I miss it. I'm trying to get my husband to watch it so I can rewatch it with him. But he has a very, very long commute. And was like, I just would watch it on the train. I don't want to watch it at home. So, we'll see. But I'll get to that at some point. Again, so a lot of these I don't think I'm actually going to read soon. Like this one, I don't think I'm actually going to read this till maybe like January. Next, I got 3 books that were not on my list, but that I'll tell you why I bought them. So the first is I got All the Ways to Ruin a Rogue by Sophie Jordan. I still have my last book in the Rogue Files series, but As you know, I always need a break in case of emergency Sophie Jordan backlist title for when I get in a bad book slump. And so when I saw this one, I'm like, okay, well, that's how I'm going to do it. The Debutante Files is going to be the next Sophie Jordan backlist that I read. This isn't even, no one read this. Like, it's that completely unbroken spine. So it helped me out. When I finish the Rogue Files, the Debutante Files are next. And I don't read these in order because it doesn't matter. I know they end happily. It's not a spoiler to me to find out who's already married. So I will read that at some point when I am in a book slump, or I'll read it just when I want to be like really cozy. Next, I got The Witches of New York by Amy McKay, which, oh my gosh, she wrote The Birth House. I read that. I've thought about buying this for a very long time. And so when I saw it for, I think this was $3. Let's check. Yes, it was $3. I was like, I should just buy it. This, again, is one that's not been read. No broken spine. It's 1880 New York City. And I know it's going to have some witchy vibes. And I really like that cover. So this is going on the October TBR. Honestly, I have so many books on my October TBR right now. I'm not going to be able to read them all, but I'm going to read some of them. And you know me, I do not only read witchy books in October. I read them all year long. So if I don't read this in October, I can read it a different month. And then the last book I got for myself, or no, that's not true. I have one other one. The last fiction book I got for myself. This is just all not true because some of the kids' books are kind of for me. I got The Witch and the Tsar by Olesa Selenikova Gilmore. This is a book I've been thinking about buying for a really long time. It was kind of expensive for a used bookstore, for a used book sale. It's $6 for the hardcover. But I am trying to... I have some ideas for some new series. So because of that, I am going to sort of shift focus in terms of what kind of books I read. I say that as I just bought a stack of Ellen Hilderbrand. But I do want to kind of refocus my reading towards specifically fantasy, historical fiction, and witchy stuff. I'm trying to do a better job at reading in the genres in which I write, which I also think it's important to read widely. But I am trying to, make sure that if I'm reading 6 books in a month, I may be reading like 1 contemporary fiction and then 1 thriller, and then the rest are, fantasy or historical fiction, rather than reading like 5 thriller contemporaries and then 1 fantasy or historical or romance or whatever like that. So this is also going on the October TBR, but I will guess I'll put this towards the bottom because I do think this would be a good book to read in the winter because it takes place in Russia. Okay, the last book I bought for myself. I've been looking for a book like this for years, which seems insane. But it's The Life of Charlemagne, and it's 75 pages, and I'm not joking. I have been looking for a short biography of Charlemagne for probably 5 years, and I found one. And so I'm probably going to read this month. I'm just going to highlight the heck out of it and learn all about Charlemagne, and I can't tell you why. But maybe in 5 years, I'll tell you why. So stick around. Now let's move to kids' books. So I've been trying to be very mindful of the amount of kids' books I buy. I used to work as a children's librarian. I love kids' books. I love picture books. But my youngest 2, who are twins, are turning 7 pretty soon. And so we're kind of transitioning out of the picture book phase. And so while there were a lot of picture books I wanted to buy, I didn't. I did a pretty good job. Also, my oldest was like, don't buy me a book. He's a very reluctant reader. And so usually I would still buy him a book, but this year I was like, okay, I'm not going to buy him a book. I didn't get him a book. So what I got were some books that were sort of looking to the future for the kids. So I got some American Girl doll books. My middle daughter she's going to be 9 in December, and then the twins are going to be 7 in November. And so they're getting to that age. The older one is definitely. And my sister and I have discussed that maybe this is the year we'll take our girls to Chicago to go to the American Girl doll store as a Christmas present for all of them. And so I thought it might be fun if we read some of these. Now, they had a bunch of American Girl doll books, and I would have bought every single number 1 they had. And this was only every single number 1 they had. So I didn't buy any number 2 or number 3. I wanted to give them an intro, and we'll eventually, I want to say that we'll read all the number 1s and then decide whose stories we want to follow. So we got Meet Josefina, which if you were an American Girl doll kid, my youngest sister had Josefina. That was her doll. She also had Kit because she's a princess. Meet Molly. I'm currently listening to the Dolls of Our Lives podcast and like revisiting these. I think this one might be a good one for us to start with because while there's like a war going on, there's not like a horrible inciting incident that's very sad, which some of the other first books have. So this might be the one to start with. Meet Kit, which again might be a good one to start with because, you know, her dad loses his job because it takes place during the Depression, but it's not like, you know, what we're going to talk about the next one. Meet Kirsten. Kirsten was the doll I had and the one I was obsessed with. And as you can tell, I'm still very obsessed with braids. But I do know, spoiler, her best friend dies in this book. And that might be a little rough for my kids to handle emotionally. So we might save this one for later and try one of the other ones. Josefina's mom has just died. We might try one of the ones where like there's a hard thing happening that's not death. So we got 4 American Girl doll books. And then I got some of these. Now, if you are like me and you worked in a library or bookstore or anything, these are like gold. Kids love them. And it was hard for me to only buy 4. I wanted to buy like, I had so many more pulled out. And then I was like, pull it back, pull it back. So my girls are currently obsessed. They just say like gems. They call them gems. And so I got the crystal and gem one, but then I also got the rocks and minerals because they dig up a lot of stuff in our yard. And I thought it might be fun for them to kind of look at what they have. So I got both of these and they've already been looking at them a ton. And then I said my oldest didn't want a book, right? So I got Pond and River, which I pitched as this is for the girls because we live near lots of ponds and a big river that my oldest fishes in all the time. He's gotten very into fishing this summer. And so I thought if I leave this out, he might just peruse it. He might think, oh, I saw that. I saw one of those. You know, oh, is there, like, I just opened to this, and one of our ponds has a muskrat in it, which is really cute. And I've seen Walking Alone, and my son saw it for the first time, but my girls have never seen him. I think because they're just too loud when we're by the pond, and he gets scared. But I thought, you know, he might just end up picking this up and being like, oh, I caught a fish like that. I found a fish like that, as a way to get him. Maybe someone interested in books. I can dream. And then lastly, this one's actually for me. It's in the same vein as the Charlemagne. I'm not going to talk much about it, but I got myself the Eyewitness book on Vikings to take some notes. And that's all I'm going to say about that. And yeah, we'll see. Actually, that's not all I'm going to say about that. That video I was talking about, and that's coming out in probably November. I'll say more about that in that video. So there you have it. 21 books that I bought in September, ranging from adult romance to American Girl. You know, it's fun to get to do a little bit of a book haul. And it was really fun to do it at the used book sale because I got, how many books there? 17. I got 17 books there, and I think I spent like $52, which is just not bad because I got 4 books at Barnes & Noble, and I spent probably almost close to $100, I'm guessing. I don't have the receipt anymore. Okay, so here's what I'm going to ask you. If you've read The Witch and the Czar or The Witches of New York, pitch them to me. Which one should I read first? If you've read The Identicals or The Summer of '69, which one should I read first? Tell me who your favorite American Girl doll is if you identify as one. So I'm a Kirsten, one of my sisters is a Samantha, and one of my sisters is a Josefina. Because I asked her because she had Kit and Josefina. I was like, well, who are you? And she said, I just love Josefina's clothes, which I liked. And my daughters have already sort of been like thinking who they might be. I like to do things where you classify yourselves. And if you've made it this far and you don't want to tell me which American Girl doll you are, or you haven't read any of those books, but you want to let me know you watched this video, how about you give me 3 big stack of books emojis, since there's a lot of stacks of books right here. And as always, I hope you're in the middle of a good book, about to start reading a good book, or about to start writing a great book. Hopefully next time, my voice will be normal. I'll see you soon.